Alright, got everything completed. So with the boost pressure tap, what you do is, at least with my kit, you take out one of the bolts, one of these 10 mils up here, close to the valve cover. I chose to go with that one because it's tucked all the way in the back, as you can see. Those are torqued down to 12 foot-pounds. You don't want to go any harder than that just because you'll strip it out from what I've read. I chose not to go with this one just because it has that bracket underneath. I don't want it to possibly leak around that. So you just screw it in, torque it down. Mine came with that little 45-degree adapter. You screw all those in. They're pipe thread. Just make sure you use Teflon tape. And then the other one, I have an air dog. So the line that feeds my air dog, or it's coming out of my air dog, is a 1/2 inch. So my kit was supplied with the correct adapter. It had barb fittings on it, but I chose to put hose clamps on it, as you can see, just for some extra security. And then the sensor, same thing, Teflon tape, screw it in. Really don't have any torque value on that, just screw it in, it's pipe. So you don't really have to go too tight. You don't want to strip it out. It's pretty easy. All my wires are tucked up underneath that trim piece. These ones here, I got some loom, just haven't done it yet because I want to make sure everything works. I'm going to put some loom around it. Same with that one over there. I'm going to leave the pyro one the way it is. My truck is an automatic, so I use the hole. Hopefully you guys can see that for the, yeah, it's way back in there. See where the wires run through? That's the hole where your clutch master cylinder would go through. If you guys don't have that, you can drill a hole in the firewall and use a rubber grommet. Make sure you definitely use a rubber grommet so you don't, over time, cut one of the wires and then you start shorting out your gauges and your gauges act all funky. But those feed up and through. Holes up there behind all that mess. I have, whoa, touch the zoom button. Feeds up and through up there. Hopefully you guys can see that. And then I didn't cut any of my excess wire. I looped it around, but that's for the power, for powering the gauges. I ran it up here underneath. You can't see it because of the window or door trim, I mean. Feeds up and around, and then right to the gauges. Gauge wiring is going to be different for every single different kind of manufacturer you guys are going to have. I'll show you guys some pictures of how mine are. When you're doing this, I have, as you can see, I have the factory tweeters. So mine's going to be a little different if you guys don't have that. If you do have that, you have to cut out of your factory one where this mounts, because if not, your new gauge pod will actually hit on it. If you don't have that, all you got to do is you drill holes directly behind the gauges. Mine are roughly 1/2 inch. You guys can use a stepper bit and do bigger than that, but 1/2 inch worked for me. Drill a hole, run your wire through, put on the fitting that clips into the back of the gauges. My fuel pressure gauge is not like some of the other ones, as you guys saw. It's just the sensor down there. It's a pressure transducer. It doesn't have the line that runs all the way up here. If you do that, you have to use a snubber. I do suggest that if you do have that, you don't want fuel going all the way up to your gauge. Plus, it'll help take out the pulsations of it. My pressure transducer automatically calculates in for that. Besides that, everything's real easy. All my gauges work. Of course, I don't have my keys on me. Let me go grab them. Never mind. I do have them on me. I'm just dumb. So, I was actually fighting issues with my air dog. That's mainly the reason why I did this. Get rid of this stupid fucking factory ding. So, you can see those red lights. That's how these work. I tapped off a wire coming off of your switch. I don't want to give you guys a color just because I don't know if these guys are different from each year to year. But just use a use a probe on it or a multimeter. When you turn the lights on, figure out which one gets hot, splice into it and use that. So start the truck up. As you guys can tell, Fuel pressure gauge, I've already fixed my issue with mine. That's why the fuel actually looks like it's at a good pressure. Really what I've been reading, you want a max of 18 to 20 or so, minimum on these of 8. It's not really good for it. So what I did is AirDog supplied me with a new spring, and then I also made some shims and shimmed it out to get some more pressure. My pressure at idle used to be at like 12, but under load it would drop down to 3, and actually one time I saw it drop down to 0. So this is the main reason for my gauges, but also it's just kind of nice to be able to monitor everything else. I already have a trans temp gauge down here, so that's why I don't have one. So I did select a boost gauge and a pyro gauge. As you can tell, everything works. So of course that doesn't move, but this does move. As you can tell, I'll put it in gear. Of course, no, fuck you. Come on, little guy. All right, whatever. So I'm gonna put it in gear. It does work. My boost, or my turbo, boost pressure gets up to, when I'm driving, I noticed it gets to about 18 to 20. Just going down the street, it's running anywhere, depending how fast I'm going, between 2 and 8 PSI. I guess those are good numbers from what I've read. I do also like this when I'm under load. I can monitor to make sure that when I shut my truck off, that my EGTs drop down to about 350 before I shut it off. Another just word of notice, you do want to, when you're towing, let your EGTs drop down to 350 and let your turbo cool off for about 3 to 4 minutes, just to make sure everything's all cool in there. You don't want it to be too hot. It's bad for your turbo. Besides that, everything's good. Everything works. I'm real happy. I'm very, very happy with these gauges. These are the Icer Pro EV2s. These are fantastic. They are very, very close to the factory gauge colors. So if you guys have any questions, just go ahead and ask them. I'll give you guys any kind of help that I possibly can. Another word of advice, when you're feeding your wires through to your gauges, I left about 3 or 4 inches through here so I can pull the wire out, plug the gauge in, and then push it in. These don't have screws to hold them in, they're just held in there. I don't know if I can actually pop them out right now, but I'm not expecting any problems, so I'm hoping I'm not going to have to pop them out. But yeah, it was fun, fairly easy, fairly straightforward. The hot lead that you want to power your gauges with, I ran off my radio, because if my radio fuse blows, I really don't care. I do have an inline fuse on it, to where if it does trip, it'll trip the ones for the gauges separate from the radio. My kit, because it's all LEDs, came with a 1 amp fuse. But yeah, you can tap into your cigarette lighter wire as well. That's another one that only comes on when your truck's actually, the ignition's in the on phase, or the on position. Make sure it's the cigarette lighter and not the other 12 amp one. So it's gonna be the one up top, cigarette lighter. Bottom one's your 12 amp or your 12 volt. Just mine's always hot from what I've noticed. But yeah, hopefully this helps somebody out. That's the main reason for the video. But yeah, this was fun. I'm really glad I did it. I've had these things sitting around for 2 years, and now I can finally drive my truck, because I've just been letting it sit to make sure everything was okay with the fuel. I don't want to fry my VP44 because I really don't feel like spending money on it. As you can tell, shut the truck off, gauges go off, those are still on. That is normal, because you need that source power coming from your lead coming on. So if you watch, once I turn that on, it does come on. They are hooked up correctly. And yeah, if you have any just general questions about my truck too, please pose them. Nothing's really special with it. It's all 100% stock. Truck's pretty boring. Yeah, thank you for watching, and please rate, comment, and subscribe. I don't do this for money. I do this to help other people. And yeah, I do have a lot of other project vehicles. I have my 98 Wrangler, which is the frame of it sitting over there. It's a work in progress. It's going to take me probably another 6 months to finish it. I have an 87 Comanche, all stock. I have my 2016 Colorado. I also have a 1999 S10 that I've had for going on 10 years now. Pretty boring. I've done a couple miscellaneous things I have videos on. And then I have a truck that I'm actually working on selling right now. My dad's most likely going to purchase it, so I'm not really going to discuss that one too much. So yeah, fun stuff. Comment away. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. And drink Old Milwaukee.